Hi, I'm Rahel Philipose, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express News Show. In this episode, we talk about the recently concluded Aero India. We also talk about Gujarat government seeking death sentences for the convicts of the Godhra train burning case. But first, we talk about the possible removal of the armed forces in the Kashmir Valley. For the past 3 decades, the valley has witnessed a lot of military presence. The J&K Police, the Border Security Force, the CRPF, the Indian Army and the Rashtriya Rifles, which was created when militancy was rising in the 90s, all of them have been posted here. But recently, when the Indian Express's Deeptiman Tiwary was speaking to officials in the security establishment, they told him that there are now plans to withdraw the presence of the Indian Army from the valley. And the idea seems to be to show that there is now normalcy in the region. In this segment, Deeptiman joins us to talk about this plan and how it's going to be implemented. So Deeptiman, could you begin by talking about the presence of the Indian Army in the Kashmir Valley?
See, we all know that the militancy started around 88-89 in Kashmir, and then at that time, the Indian Army and the BSF were pressed into action. So, Border Security Force and Indian Army formed this special unit called Rashtriya Rifles. Because, under the legal structure that we have, the army is not supposed to be operating inside the country. It is supposed to be on the borders defending the country and going to war and fighting battles. So, for operational and legal requirements, a special unit called Rashtriya Rifles was created, which along with the Border Security Force then, and at that time both BSF and Army were already deployed on the line of control. So they were thought to be the natural forces to also counter terrorism within the Kashmir Valley at its peak in the 90s. However, as things began to improve, BSF was slowly and steadily phased out. And in 2005, BSF was completely removed from internal security duties in Kashmir Valley. So only now Rashtriya Rifles and Jammu and Kashmir Police and BSF had by then been replaced by the CRPF, which started conducting counter-terror operations in the valley.
Right, and now coming to the present, there's a proposed plan to withdraw the Indian Army from Kashmir. What is the reasoning behind this idea?
So this plan has taken shape after the August 5, 2019 decisions that stripped the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir of its special status and bifurcated it into 2 union territories. Since then, there has been a massive deployment of forces within Jammu and Kashmir, and according to government claims, a lot of successes on counter-terror front as well as law and order situation in the union territory. In fact, government has claimed that in parliament, if the period prior to August 5, 2019 decisions and juxtaposed period after it is compared, then there has been a reduction of violence up to 50%. So the government has been consistently claiming that, normalcy has been established in Kashmir. And see, Kashmir is a region that we have to understand is vast across the world. It was internationalized many, many years ago, even before the militancy in Kashmir began. And it's a region which is very closely watched by the international community. A lot of India's position, soft power, its diplomatic heft also hinges on, what it does and what it does not do in Kashmir. So it's a great showcase that if we are able to, establish peace in Jammu and Kashmir, integrate it with the mainland India, and show to the world that the people of Kashmir are with India and that there is no problem in Kashmir, that whatever little militancy that is there is because of Pakistan. And this can be shown obviously by, reduction in violence and a better law and order situation, well-functioning schools, society, markets, everything like a regular society is. However, while we showcase all of this, and yet we continue to have a very heavy military presence in Kashmir, it just does not sit well together. So there is a proposal which is being discussed for the past 2 years within the government at interministerial level with the involvement of the forces, different stakeholders, that the army component in the internal security, which is the Kashmir hinterland, be removed completely and it be replaced by either equal or calibrated amount of forces by the Central Reserve Police Force. Jammu and Kashmir Police is already there. So that is the basic idea which is being discussed at the highest level in the government at the moment.
And is there any information about how this withdrawal will take place? As in, will it be in phases or in one go?
So the basic idea is to remove Rashtriya Rifles. Now, how do we ensure that its removal does not have a negative impact on controlling terrorist violence within the Kashmir Valley? So the discussion which is going on right now is that the ideal situation would have been for the Jammu and Kashmir police to take over entire security, as it happens in every other state. That becomes as normal as it gets, like in Bihar police, or in UP police controls law and order in every other state. So in Jammu and Kashmir police should. However, because there is a special case, there is a cross-border interference there. So you will have to maintain some sort of a force there, because the Jammu and Kashmir police as yet does not have the kind of manpower, the kind of wherewithal. Even though it is a brave force, it has given maximum sacrifices in Kashmir, it is still not as well prepared for the challenge that is there ahead. So the idea is that it will be supplemented by the Central Reserve Police Force, and when RR is removed, that space will be taken over by the Central Reserve Police Force. However, it does not mean that the CRPF will carbon copy replace the RR. There will be a calibrated deployment, and depending upon the security situation, depending upon how much we need, what we need, that decision will be taken in future. At the same time, this is not going to be a sudden removal of Rashtriya Rifles. It is going to be in phases. For example, there are discussions whether Rashtriya Rifles can be removed from Anantnag and Kulgam, and then we see how things pan out in these two districts. And then if the results are good, then we take the next step. Largely, at the moment, as the proposals stand, things have been planned in 3 phases. That in 3 phases, RR can be removed and be replaced by CRPF.
Okay, so Deeptiman, all of that is on the administrative side. But coming to the ground level, how has the heavy military presence affected the local population there all these years? And will this move be welcomed by the public?
Look, I think for a long time, Kashmiris, whether for real reason or for perceived reasons or for narratives having been created, we don't know, have said and articulated that at least sections within Kashmir have articulated that the people of Kashmir have been oppressed by the Indian army over the years, and there have been atrocities heaped on them, at least during the peak of militancy, and even till date there are such allegations which keep coming. So removal of the Indian army from inside Kashmir is at least going to silence those voices. But at the same time, we have to understand that it's not being totally handed over to Jammu and Kashmir police. And a central force in the name of CRPF is going to stay there for reasons of security. So how this will pan out, what will be the reaction of the people, whether they will celebrate it or whether they will say that this is all a hogwash or an eyewash, how the political atmosphere builds up later, because articulation is generally done by political outfits. So since nobody has as yet reacted to it, we don't really know how it pans out. Also, things will develop only after the decision is finally taken. Although on the face of it, it appears to be a very, very positive move that should have great impact on confidence building measures inside Kashmir Valley.
And next we talk about the recently concluded Aero India.
साथियों, एरो इंडिया का ये आयोजन भारत के बढ़ते हुए सामर्थ्य का उदाहरण है। आज एरो इंडिया केवल एक शो नहीं है, ये इंडिया की स्ट्रेंथ भी है। आज ये इंडियन डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री के स्कोप को भी फोकस करता और सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस को भी फोकस करता है।
Aero India, which is organized every 2 years by the Ministry of Defence, is the biggest aviation exhibition of the country, where the participating countries showcase their new aviation innovations. This year it was held from 13th to 17th February in Bengaluru, and more than 80 countries participated in the event, including those like the United States, Russia, Israel, France and the UK. Now, while every country displayed their latest aero technologies, The main theme that dominated this year's discussion was India's message of self-reliance when it came to building defense equipment and exporting homegrown equipment to other countries. In this segment, Amrita Nayak Dutta, who reported on the event for the Indian Express, joins my colleague Utsa Sarmin to talk about this message and other takeaways from this year's Aero India.
So Amrita, to begin with, can you speak about the importance of an event like Aero India?
So Aero India is India's largest aviation event. The biennial exhibition brings hundreds of global and Indian companies under the same roof and allows them to showcase high-tech military platforms, weapon systems, equipment to pitch to the Indian and other markets, and also provides a fertile ground for new partnerships for joint development of various projects. Simultaneously, a variety of dialogues also held on the sidelines of the event. For example, this Aero India, which just got over last Friday, over 2,000 agreements worth rupees 80,000 crore were signed, and some 800 defense companies took part in the show, out of which 700 were Indian. And then there were many platforms which had come. There were many aircraft, brand new, latest aircraft of different countries, which were doing aerial demonstrations for the audience. So it was a happening event with almost 5 lakh people visiting the exhibition.
Right, and on the sidelines of this Aero show, there was also a conclave in which Defence Minister Rajnath Singh interacted with the defence ministers of different countries. Could you tell us what came out of that conclave?
So, in the Defence Ministers' conclave, the Defence Minister, Rajnath Singh, he took a very veiled dig at China. He said India does not believe in giving sermons and cut-and-dried solutions to countries that need assistance, and nations with superior military powers or better technological prowess should not have the right to dictate solutions to others.
We do not believe in giving sermons or cut-and-dried solutions which do not respect the national values and constraints of the countries in need of assistance. Rather, we support the capacity building of our partner countries so that they may chart out their own destiny in accordance with their own genius. There are nations.
So he took a dig at China, but at the same time he said that he told the defense ministers that we want to build and launch with you, we want to create with you. And he also took the example of the COVID-19 pandemic where everybody came together to sort out a problem. So he also says that India is exporting their defense equipment to friendly nations, and India also offer full support towards the capability development of the buyers. So towards this, he also sort of pitched India's export propositions.
And talking about exports, India has traditionally signed deals with different countries for its defense requirements. But now it is talking about self-reliance. So considering that, is India looking towards exporting more defense equipment and parts than importing them?
Yes, of course. So, as you would know, Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the inaugural speech of Aero India, he said that India is looking to take its exports to $5 billion from $1.5 billion, which is at present. So, he aims that India should take defense exports to $5 billion by 2024.
जो देश दशकों से सबसे बड़ा डिफेंस इंपोर्टर था, वो अब दुनिया के 75 देशों को डिफेंस इक्विपमेंट एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है। हमारा लक्ष्य है कि 2024-25 तक हम एक्सपोर्ट के इस आंकड़े को $1.5 बिलियन से बढ़ाकर $5 बिलियन तक ले जाएंगे।
So there are two messages to it. India, first of all, is looking to achieve a higher degree of self-reliance. So, which means to stop import dependence to a large extent and at the same time grow the exports as well. So, if you ask me, what are the things that India is immediately looking at exporting? India is looking to export the light combat aircraft Tejas, one of the major platforms that India has indigenously built. So Tejas is one. Then you have the advanced light helicopters. Then you have the BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles, which is built by a joint venture between India and Russia. So a lot of smaller parts that is India sort of looking to export to other countries. And almost all foreign companies this time spoke about the Make in India program and joint development and co-production in India, including Russia and the US.
Right, and about Russia and the US. Well, they were both present at the event, but the US had a more visible presence than Russia. Tell us about that.
So I would say Russia, which is already at war, which has been at war with Ukraine for almost a year now, they registered a measured presence at the exhibition with most of the major companies like Rosoboronexport, United Aircraft Corporation putting up their stalls at the exhibition. They exhibited various armaments and military hardware. They exhibited their 5th generation Su-57E multi-role fighter, their IL-76 military transport aircraft, which they are pitching to the Air Force. But none of them were flown in physically to participate in the aerial demonstration. The United States, in contrast, they had a very high voltage present. Their leading defense companies were all here, and they came in with their largest ever delegation in this exhibition. They also got in 2 of their 5th generation fighters, which is the F-35s, and also 2 of their bombers, which was a surprise actually. Nobody knew about it, that they were going to get in these aircraft. So this, I would say, is a strategic and geopolitical signal because bulk of India's military equipment is from Russia, and Russia is under sanctions from the West, and US is increasingly trying to get close to India, woo India, so that India weans away from its dependence on Moscow. So this is through selling, this is through various imports, as well as through different partnership opportunities in various defense projects, so various joint development and all. I will give you the example of F-35 that they got in. So F-35, there was no official word from the US whether they're going to offer F-35 to India. But yet they got the aircraft to show that they're there. So it is about that. I would say that Russia's presence was more measured, like it is every year, but the presence of US was really big this time.
And Amrita, what do you think is the main message that came out of this year's Aero India?
So I would say that previously all companies would come up, showcase their platforms, come up, and they would effectively look at selling the platform to the Indian market or to the other markets. But this time it was more about joint development, jointly producing, co-development. It was more about that. And that possibly has happened because India has time and again made it clear that it is seeking to increasingly wean away from imports, and it is looking to build its own products and also export them to other countries. So I believe that was the main message this time, because every country that issued a statement, every foreign company that issued a statement, they all said that they are looking to enter into some sort of partnership with India, under which they will manufacture, whether it's engines or whether it's any other complicated product, they would jointly make it together. So that, I think, was a shift from the past events.
And in the end, we give you an update on the Gujarat government's decision to call for death penalty for the Godhra train burning convicts. On Monday, the Gujarat government told the Supreme Court that it will press for death penalty to the 11 convicts of the 2002 Godhra train burning case, whose sentences were commuted to life imprisonment by the state's High Court. A bench comprising Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud and Justices P.S. Narasimha and J.B. Pardiwala also fixed the hearings for bail pleas of several accused in the case. And it has asked the counsel of both sides to file a consolidated chart giving details like actual sentences awarded to them and the period spent by them in jail till now. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, who appeared for the Gujarat government, told the bench, and I quote, "We will be seriously pressing for award of death penalty to the convicts whose death penalties were commuted into life imprisonment. This is the rarest of rare cases where 59 people, including women and children, were burnt alive," unquote. The law officer also said that 11 convicts were sentenced to death by the trial court and 20 others were awarded life sentences. The High Court upheld total 31 convictions in the case and commuted the death penalties of 11 convicts to life term. The Supreme Court has granted bail to 2 convicts in the case so far. 7 other bail pleas are pending adjudication in the matter. On 30th January, the Supreme Court sought the Gujarat government's response on the bail pleas of some convicts sentenced to life imprisonment. In response, the state government said that it was not merely a stone-pelting case, as the convicts had bolted a bogie off the Sabarmati Express, leading to the death of several passengers on the train. On December 15th last year, the top court granted bail to Farouk, who was serving a life sentence in the case, saying that he had been in jail for 17 years. Farouk, along with several others, was convicted for pelting stones at a coach of the Sabarmati Express. On 27 February 2002, 59 people were killed when the S6 coach of the train was burnt at Gujarat's Godhra, triggering riots in the state. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was hosted by me, Rahel Philipose, and Utsa Sarmin, and written and produced by Utsa Sarmin with the help